Rocky start as a teen. Dad split when I was 13, and it wrecked things with Mom, too. It hurt thinking someone you love could just leave. No goodbyes and not even a call sent. And if I wasn't good enough for his love, why bother about what others think? But even if I lost one family, I found a new one. A school gang. Backpacks turned inside out. Nailed it hundreds of times. Vaseline on doorknobs and handrails. Classic move. Whoopee cushion on the teacher's chair. My all-time fave. Whoops, totally spaced on the intro. Hi, I'm Emily. And while you hit that like and subscribe, I'll keep the story rolling. So, detention became my second home over the years. But hey, I had to prove that I deserved a spot in the crew. Otherwise, Nancy, our leader, would kick me to the curb. She always pushed us to pull off crazier and riskier stuff. And boy, did she lose it if you dared question her orders. One day, she dropped this bomb on us. Listen up. You all know that grumpy old sock neighbor, Mr. Wilson? Yeah, he tore into me last week just for walking by too loud. We're gonna teach him a lesson. I need you to break into his house and snag something we can use to mock him. Jaws hit the floor. Fear painted across every face, but silence. It took all my guts to whisper, Nancy? What? You do know that's illegal, right? It's not like the pranks we pull at school. We could actually get arrested. Scared, little mouse. Truth was, I was scared. We all were. But saying it to her? Nah, that wasn't an option. She'd just laugh in our face and kick us out of the gang. So, in the dead of night, we decided to go for it. We all drove through the open window and scattered in different directions inside the house. Wanting to play it safe, I figured the attic would be my best bet. Up there, it was a maze of boxes, ancient cabinets, and dust. Tons of dust. It was clear no one had set foot in this place for ages. I started sifting through boxes. Most of them were filled with old books and clothes, but then, jackpot. One box held a treasure trove, old photos and letters. As I flipped through the pictures, something struck me. Young Mr. Wilson looked genuinely happy. It was weird. Nothing seemed to bother him in those snapshots. He was grinning or winking at the camera in every photo. He was cute. Young Mr. Wilson had this mischievous charm that all the girls go for. I couldn't help but wonder what could have happened in his life to turn him into the annoyed and cranky neighbor we all knew. Still, those charming pics weren't gonna cut it for the task Nancy gave us, so I kept searching. Just as I grabbed an old notebook, the unmistakable sound of a stick clicking and an angry voice pierced the dusty air.
Who's there?
Footsteps closing in. Darn, I must have made too much noise. Glancing around, I realized the only way out was downstairs, just as Mr. Wilson was making his way up. Panic surged through me, so I ducked behind the boxes, heart pounding so loud I was sure anyone could hear it. But when Mr. Wilson reached the spot, he focused on the dusty floor.
Footprints. Who is here? Walk out with your hands up.
I started crouching backward, trying to dodge Mr. Wilson as he traced my footprints. But in my panic, I missed the box behind me, bumped into it, and it crashed to the ground with a loud bang. Without looking, I bolted, ran down those stairs in a flash. I figured an old guy like Mr. Wilson couldn't catch up, but I wasn't sure if he'd seen my face. Facing Nancy was out of the question. I was still reeling from the close call with the neighbor, but hey, at least I pulled off swiping the notebook and a bunch of letters. Still, I had to dig in and make sure they were juicy enough. I had to roll up to the gang looking like a total champ. The notebook was a mess though. Doodles, grocery lists, and random notes. Just when I thought it was a bust, I stumbled upon a bucket list titled To Do Until 40. This might be interesting. Some goals were easy, like try Chinese cuisine or complete Toy Soldiers collection. Others were bigger, like get married or become a rock star. None of them were checked off. That's kinda sad. Then I moved on to the letters. Each one was addressed to Julia and stamped return. And they were the most romantic words I'd ever laid eyes on. I found myself lying on my bed, soaking up every line, daydreaming about what it'd be like to be loved like that. I thought that kind of stuff only happened in movies. But here it was, proof that even the grumpiest person could know what love feels like. After a few days, I had no choice but to finally catch up with the gang. I thought you betrayed us. What? No, I didn't. We'll see. But did you steal anything? I looked around. It was obvious nobody had found anything useful. The letters could have been my ticket to respect. They'd all look up to me. But nah, didn't score anything. Something inside me cracked. I never liked Mr. Wilson. He was always rude and grumpy. But if he could write such beautiful romantic letters in the past, life must have been too harsh for him to end up like that. I just couldn't bring myself to mock him. Suddenly, I wanted to do the opposite. All I could think about was how to pull something nice for him. It was hella weird. I used to prank everyone, make their lives miserable, so why did I care about some old dude? There was no answer. But after reading his letters over and over, I decided to use his own bucket list to make him happy. First, I went for the easy goal. Try Chinese food. truth. He might have already done it, but hey, gotta give it a shot. I ordered up some of my go-to dishes, left him by his door, rang the bell, and ninja'd it into the bushes. After what felt like forever, the door creaked open. Mr. Wilson, moody as ever, scanned the area, then noticed the grub at his feet. He poked it with the end of his stick, cursed up a storm, picked it up, and chucked it in the trash. Dang it! Clearly, he thought it was some prank. Time to level up. He wanted to learn magic tricks, so I got him a book titled Magic for Beginners. And guess what? He didn't throw it away. Score! After a few weeks, I managed to check off a bunch of little things from his list, and surprisingly, he accepted every gift. At first, he squinted around trying to spot me.
Who is doing it? Show yourself!
But as time went on, he started cracking a wider smile each time he opened the door to a new surprise. Finally, I went for the gold, took some pics of him, and photoshopped his face into all these different places he wanted to travel. And when he saw them, he actually laughed. That was the first time I glimpsed the young boy inside Mr. Wilson's old body. That guy was still in there, just hidden behind the grumpiness. So I thought it was the right time to finally face him. When he opened the door, he was still smiling. I kinda awkwardly looked down. It was me who broke in. I'm really sorry. It's supposed to be a prank, not anything bad. Please don't be angry. I know my gifts can't erase the past, but I hope you'll forgive me.
Didn't know your kind had the guts to confess. Come in.
I only remembered the house from that night, but in the daylight it looked empty. No family pics on the wall, no flowers in vases, and no fruit on the table.
So it was you who left all the gifts?
Yeah, I wanted to do something nice for you, so I looked at your bucket list. He paused and looked at me with a silent question. I found your old notebook. These things weren't checked, so...
So you stole my stuff.
I couldn't say a word. Feeling embarrassed, I handed him back the notebook.
I forgot I made that list.
Suddenly, he looked dreamy, flipping through his old writings. Then he offered tea, and we started talking. Do you have a family?
No.
No wife, no kids?
No, life is grim. Every time you open up your heart to someone, they shatter it. So trust no one.
He was right. No love, no pain. But the words from his letters were stuck in my head, so I had to ask, who's Julia? His hands started shaking, and he dropped the cup. It fell to the floor and broke, scattering pieces of porcelain around. I felt like I had gone too far, and it was...
None of your business.
Sorry,
And if you ever poke your nose into my stuff again like a little rat, you'll regret it.
The convo was over, but back home I was wrestling with the mixed emotions. I couldn't just sit there in the dark, so I dove into the web to hunt down any hint of this mysterious Julia. Hours flew by as I scrolled and clicked, losing sleep and skipping meals, but nada, zilch. Why didn't they have the internet back in the day? All I had were those letters, her name, and an address. So, left with no other option, I headed to another city on the hunt for Julia. 3 hours on a train and a cab ride later, I was standing in front of the address from the letters. An old house, weeds creeping all over it, and the front door's glass was cracked. But I still gave it a solid knock. No dice, though. Silence. Tears welled up in my eyes. I didn't get why I was feeling like this. Mr. Wilson was just some old dude, not a part of my world. I shouldn't be caring about him and his ancient love story. That was his past, not mine. Yet here I was, next to this forgotten house, feeling like the whole world had just crashed down. I was still dabbing at my teary eyes when an old woman from the neighboring house stepped out.
Honey, everything okay?
I was hoping to find a woman here, but it seems I'm too late.
Oh, I've been living here my whole life. Maybe I can help.
My heart raced like a Formula One car. Did you know Julia?
Oh, I sure did. Oh, sweet Julia. She was a good friend of mine.
I let out a big cough. Sorry. Do you know where I can find Julia now?
Oh, love, I haven't talked to her since they moved to a nearby town. No idea what happened to her afterward.
Do you have the address? I hopped onto another train to reach the nearby town. By the time I knocked on the door, it was twilight. The seconds crawled by like snails. My heart threatened to burst out of my chest, and I felt like I might faint any second. But when the door swung open, I saw Mr. Wilson? My jaw hit the floor because it was like young Mr. Wilson stepped right out of a black and white photograph. Same cute boy. The only difference? The glasses. They made him look even cozier, more home-like. He was staring back at me.
Who's Mr. Wilson?
His words went right past me. I mumbled something, totally blanked on why I was even there. He looked at me like I was acting crazy. It took me a whole minute to come back to my senses. I'm searching for Julia. She used to live here?
My gran was Julia, but she passed away 2 years ago.
Oh, I was too late. Everything was over. No chance for a reunion for Mr. Wilson and his long-lost love.
I'm Robert, by the way, and you're...
He held out his hand. My cheeks flushed, Emily, and when our hands touched, it hit me. I'm gonna crack the mystery now. Is your mom home? When I told them the story, they were legit mind-blown because Julie never spilled who Robert's granddad was. Turns out it was the ultimate family secret and shame because she got pregnant before getting married. So they had to move to another city to keep her secret. secret. All they knew was that Julie was in love with that man, and she never married because of that forbidden love. The next day, the three of us were banging on Mr. Wilson's door, and when he swung it open, it was crystal clear. He recognized his daughter and grandson, even if he never knew they existed.
I didn't know. How? Why?
For a hot minute, they just stood there, staring at each other, and then dived into hugs. That was the first time I ever saw Mr. Wilson cry. Without even realizing it, tears rolled down my cheeks too. I've pulled off tons of pranks, but none hit me in the feels like helping out this old man did. Seeing him smile made my heart do a happy dance. The next day, I had a real heart-to-heart with my mom, the first one since Dad split. We'd been arguing for ages, but now it felt like we could be a team again. These past few weeks have changed me forever.
You can't just quit. I ban you.
Whatever. But the coolest part? I started getting real letters from Rob. Sure, it's not a love story like Mr. Wilson's, but having a pen pal in this age of gadgets, there's just something special about it, don't you think?